Hello and welcome to Love Anything Art. Got another project idea for you. Actually, I have 3 patterns for you today. If you could, please hit that subscribe button. It would really help out this channel in growing. I've been doing this for 3 years now, and I would really like to reach more people and kind of expand my audience. So if you could help me out and just hit that subscribe button, I would really appreciate it. Thank you. I'm going to be using some pearl clay and some white clay for this project. You can use any light color clay that you want. We'll get a little bit messy, so I'm going to put my gloves on. Yes, they are old and used, but they still work just fine. And some alcohol inks that I have. I'll be using this for the project. Just kind of looking through there just to see what colors that I think look good together. I was trying to go for like lighter, more vibrant colors, but honestly you can really pick whatever you want. I do find working on a piece of paper helps collect all of the spill off from the ink, so it's a nice little tool to have. And these are just the colors that I chose to use. No magical way to do this here, just kind of dropping the color on the clay. And I was trying not to get too much of like the color bleed. And since it's really liquidy, I kind of was trying to space them out a little bit more. And because I'm really impatient, I don't want to wait for it to dry in between, so I just took a napkin and put it on there and soaked up some of the color, which I'm really glad I did because the napkin kind of left little patterns in the ink because the pattern on the napkin. So that was kind of fun and interesting, kind of like little splotch marks that it left, which kind of gave like a little veiny texture in the end. So kind of glad that I did it that way. You'll see there, you can kind of see the little patterns that it left, which is kind of fun. I'm going to make a little translucent tube, and I want to have a solid color around the outside. I chose white because I thought that would stand out best against the colors that I chose for the ink, but really you can choose any color that you want as the outer ring. You'll just need to have some translucent clay for the center of it. And really you can roll out the tube to as thick as you want it to be. Maybe you could do a couple of different ones, maybe a really thin one, long and thin, the other one kind of, you know, like more like short and kind of stubby a little bit. Just different lengths and sizes. That might give a little bit of variance to the piece when we cut off these little rings. And you can see that as we kind of go along. But I do want my outer ring of color to be a little bit thick so that you can kind of see it when I roll it out just a little bit. It doesn't kind of roll out to really thin. And this is my little tube cane. I did put it in the freezer for a few minutes just to kind of firm it up a little bit. I feel like that is just what works best. You'll need to shave off quite a few of these little guys. Just trying to make them as thin as possible. If you don't get them super thin, you can always pinch out the sides and stuff so that it makes it a little bit thinner. It doesn't have to be perfect. It does mess up your circle a little bit around the outside, so if that's really important to you, then you'll just have to cut it to as thick as you can get it, or as thin as you can get it. And these are all my little shaved off circles. I went around and kind of flattened the little ring around the outside a little bit. Then I'm going to put those on the clay. And if the center is a little bit thick, it'll also kind of thin out a little once we go back and do some burnishing on it. I would recommend when placing your little circles on there to kind of space them out a little bit, because when you do burnish it, it will flatten out a little bit and they'll kind of mix together so that the rings aren't separate. Like this one right here, I put a little bit too close, so they kind of puff out and touch each other when I do my burnishing. It's not like a huge deal or anything, but if you want your circles to be very separated, I guess you could say, then just have them spread out a little bit further than I spread mine out. And you'll see there it's pretty thin along the side, but it's also quite bumpy and lumpy. So just doing some burnishing, and I really did take my time with this because I didn't want it to be super flattened, and I didn't want my little circles to get too out of shape. So I spent about 5 minutes kind of burnishing it, and it came out pretty good. I'm really surprised and happy with it, so that's good. And of course the clay on the underside does get a little bit thinned out, but that's okay. And it's also a little dirty, but you can go ahead and put on a backing to the clay. You can choose whatever color that you want. I decided to go with white because it's just kind of a very, bland or neutral color, and it will not take away from the color on the front of the piece. So I just wanted a very plain background. Just roll it out thin enough and then put your piece of clay on top. And this is really pretty once it's baked, so I was really, really happy with it. And then you'll just need to cut out your shapes. And if you've watched 1, 2, or 50 of my videos, you probably know that I like to make my own cutters with paper. You can use whatever you like, however you want to cut out shapes. This is just what I like doing because it's just cheaper and more economical, and I can kind of control the shapes that I have. It does make it to where the edges of the piece are kind of jagged, but I just take my time and smooth it out, and I'm okay with that. You'll see there in the side view. And then I'll just go and kind of tap, 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 and get those edges super nice and smooth. And then I'll just cut out all of my little beautiful shapes. Planned them all out and decided what I was going to make. Again, these were all just used with a paper cutter. And you'll see that the backs of them are pretty dirty because it's white, and I wasn't really taking care of my space, so it was kind of dusty and dirty. But I'm gonna hide it with a little bit of glitter. I like using glitter in my pieces. It really does add a nice, interesting touch to it. You can either take your finger and kind of smear it along the back, or just put a little bit of the glitter on a piece of paper and then just plop your little piece right down on that, and then just kind of smooth it around. It's very soothing. And that's really all you have to do on that. And you have a nice smooth surface on the back with glitter. I have mine all ready to go on this piece of paper, and I'm going to go ahead and bake that in the oven. Ah, they're all baked, resin, and put together. Ah, it's like magic. And I'll just kind of briefly show you my pieces I did here and kind of what they look like after they bake. So you'll see there in the center that the translucent did bake out pretty clear. And it almost has a 3D effect because the center has more space. Or it looks like it has more space because it was just the clear clay on top there, the translucent, and then the outer ring of the white. I don't know, it makes it kind of give it like a 3D kind of look. You can really see it here on this piece, I think. And then also you can see in the center there that little spider webby veiny kind of a look because of the tissue paper. Really, really like it. And then of course my backs are all nice and glittered. And just a couple more pieces here. I really like this one. It's cute. It's got the little heart on the top. Little shapes, heart and circle. And this is just a little something something. I wanted to make sure I used as much clay as possible in these projects too. I didn't want to have a lot of leftover clay. So, on to the second idea. I really like this clay. It has the glitter already in it, so that when you cut through the clay, it doesn't cut or make little jagged marks. I've put regular glitter in my clay before, and when you cut through it, it does like, it's like sand, and every time you cut through it, it leaves like these raked, like jagged marks all over it. So buying the glitter clay is a good idea. I really, really like it too. It's got nice little sparklies in it. And again, I'm going to be using some inks, and those are just the colors that I chose. You can also use a napkin to soak up any of the ink that spills over. And again, I dotted or dabbed away the ink on the top. That's why it's got that little spidery, splotchy look on it. So I really, really like that. I think it really adds a nice little flair to it. And I love it. You can see all the pretty little glitter underneath. It kind of looks like a universe, or like, you know, the solar system out there. Very, very nighttime sky-ish look. I like it. And then just use whatever stencil that you have. I'm just going to use this one. This is one of my favorite ones. I just love the way it looks. And you do want to put your clay on a surface that it will stick to. That way it doesn't move around a lot. And as I was rolling this, the stencil did not want to stick to the clay underneath. I've done this kind of a technique before and it's worked, but I don't know what it was about this. Maybe it was the glitter clay. But if you take your roller and kind of just massage the top of the clay, just roll it around, it starts to break through that layer of ink. You can see there it's coming up, which is fine because we're going to scrape this away anyway, so it doesn't matter what that looks like. If it gets kind of damaged on the top there, we're scraping away all that excess clay anyway. Only thing bad about these really, really intricate stencils is that it's really hard to scrape away the clay. So just kind of be wary of that depending on which stencil you choose. And I just love the way it looks. That the white color underneath really pops against all of those pretty different colors in the background. Really like it. And then my little translucent cane that I made in the first project. Again, I will cut away some slices from that. And then I'm going to go around and pinch the edges. As I was just sitting here kind of messing around in between takes of filming, I saw my little circle cutter to the side and I was like, oh my gosh, that's like the perfect little circle cutout shape. So I can have a perfect outside. I can flatten it to the thickness that I want, and then I can just cut away all that extra. I was super happy when I found that out. And you can do this with different circle sized cutters that you have. So if your circle is bigger or smaller, you can just use that. And it gives you a pretty circular shape around the outside. You'll see there, kind of looks like an egg on the left. Like a little egg blob. Like a fried egg. And then just place those again on top. This time I am trying to space them out a little bit more so that they don't touch when I burnish it. And then burnishing. And it's really fun to see. It's pretty much the same idea as the first. Of course, I did the stencil, so it was a little bit different. But it just really comes out completely different looking for the end product. So it's kind of fun. And this is pretty thinned out, so I am again going to put a backing on there. I'm just going to use some of the actual glitter clay. And also, if your white clay gets dirty, you can use a little bit of rubbing alcohol, like on a Q-tip or on a cotton ball, and kind of just gently wipe it away. Any little fuzzies you might get on there, if you want to cover that up and don't want to use glitter on your piece. And I'm going to make little domed shapes with all of my cutouts that I made from my piece. I'm doing it on the back side because if I did it on the inside, it would have a shiny look on it, so I don't want the outside to be shiny except for the resin. And then I baked those. You see they're nice and hard. And then I'm going to use some of that glitter clay again. And I'm going to start pinching the sides and kind of forming it to the shape of my piece. And then I'm going to keep pinching and kind of pulling down a little bit. And eventually it's just going to kind of cut away from the baked clay. And I did kind of film this whole little thing so you could see exactly what I'm doing. It just starts to rip away there. It gets really thin. And then it breaks away. You can use some bacon bond if you want to use that, if you feel like it's not going to stick. But the end result is fine. And also I'm putting resin on this when it's done, so it's not like it's going to break away or anything. It's going to be quite sealed. And then just smooth out the edges with your finger, just to make sure you join the edges together nice and flat. And then decide how you want it to look, which side you want to be kind of facing up, however you want your jewelry pieces to hang. And then just put your eye hook in the part that is not baked. And then I'm going to bake it again, but I'm going to bake it so that all of the back sides are facing up. And it's done again. I just baked them, put resin, glued in the eye hooks, and that is it. And this one really, I think, has a very nice 3D kind of effect on the front. Because that centerpiece bakes out, you can see right there. It just gives it kind of like a 3D look. I like it. Just gonna show you the rest of my pieces here. Again, it has that little spidery web kind of a look coming out from it. And then a little matching set. I just took a square cutter and then put them on them sides and then had little diamond shapes. And then for the last idea, this is all of the scrap clay from the project. I want to use up all of my scrap clay. Like I said, I have a whole bunch and I need to start making sure I use it after each project. That way I won't have any scrap clay left. Just chopping it. Just different size pieces, really. What I like about this too is the ink kind of bleeds over into the translucent clay and it kind of has a nice little effect on it. So just mixing it all up, just getting it into a kind of a flat square-ish shape and then flattening all the pieces together, tucking in the sides as I go until I have a nice flat cohesive piece. And I really like the colors of this too. It kind of muted all of the colors from the project, so it wasn't any like really super bold colors. I don't know. It came out really nice. Very light and almost pearlescent. And as you kind of go along and want to cut out your shapes, you can decide which side you like the best after cutting out your piece. So that's kind of fun too. And this is my flattened piece. I just cut out shapes, baked, resined, and that is all I did for this. Wow. Just see there, jazz hands. These are all the little pieces I made from it. Just kind of fun. Kind of reminds me of like a taffy candy almost. I don't know. I'm kind of a goof that way. Just briefly show you my pieces here. Again, thank you for watching. I hope you have had a chance to hit that subscribe button and help this channel out because it could use it. No, I appreciate you watching. Thank you so much, and I'll see you in a couple of weeks. Thank you so much for watching. Bye!